When the sun sets and the world grows quiet, something sacred begins to unfold. The night is not merely the end of the day, it is the threshold between what was and what can be. It is the moment when heaven leans close to the earth, waiting for the whisper of your heart. In the stillness of the night, when the noise of the day fades and the rush of human activity comes to rest, the spirit becomes sensitive, the heart becomes tender, and the soul becomes open. The night is not the absence of light. It is the invitation to meet the light himself. When darkness covers the earth, the world sleeps, but heaven never slumbers. There are moments in the day when you pray out of routine, out of discipline, or even out of necessity. But there is something different about the night. The night prayer carries a fragrance that daytime prayers do not always hold. It is intimate, unhurried, and deep. When you kneel or whisper your words before sleep, it is as if you are laying your heart on the altar one final time before the curtain of the day closes. It is not a ritual, it is a relationship. It is not duty, it is desire. The night is sacred because it strips you of performance and leaves only sincerity. In the daytime, your mind is often crowded. You are busy with work, family decisions, and distractions. But at night, the stage clears, and only you and your thoughts remain. It is in that silence that you begin to hear the quiet voice within. The Spirit of peace speaks softly in the night, saying, "Be still. You have done enough. Rest in me." And if you listen closely, you can sense the gentle assurance that you are not alone, that even as you sleep, divine hands are working, shaping, guiding, and protecting. The night reveals what the day hides. The shadows of evening expose the anxieties buried under productivity, the fears masked by busyness. When everything slows down, you begin to feel what you were too distracted to notice. And that is why the night must become sacred to you. Because only in meeting the divine before sleep can those restless emotions find peace. When you pray before bed, you are not just saying words. You are releasing the weight of your soul. You are letting go of control and confessing, "I am human, but you are eternal. I am limited, but you are limitless." Many go to bed with heavy hearts, burdened minds, and restless thoughts. But those who understand that the night is a sacred meeting time never lie down the same way. They pause before sleep. They breathe, they remember, and they pray. Even if the prayer is short, even if it is just a whisper, "Thank you for today. Lead me tomorrow." That small act changes everything, because what you release in prayer does not haunt you in your dreams. What you surrender at night, heaven transforms into strength for the morning. There is a holy rhythm to life that is often lost in the noise of our schedules. Morning is for movement, afternoon for labor, evening for reflection, and night for communion. The night belongs to the soul. It is when eternity feels close and the heart becomes honest. In that quiet moment before sleep, you can speak freely, without pretense, without the need to impress anyone. You can cry, you can thank, you can question, you can simply sit in silence and let your spirit rest in His presence. Some of the greatest revelations are not found in daylight. They are born in midnight prayers. When the world sleeps, heaven listens. When the world stops, the Spirit awakens. It is in the darkness that faith shines brightest, for only then do you realize that your source of light is not the sun, but the one who made it. The night reminds you that you are not sustained by your strength, but by His grace. You may close your eyes to sleep, but heaven keeps watch over you. The night is sacred because it is both an ending and a beginning, both rest and renewal, both silence and divine conversation. It is where your heart learns again to trust the unseen and to believe that even in the darkness, there is purpose. There is a peace that does not come from circumstances, a stillness that no storm can steal, a calm that lives deeper than the noise of the world. This peace is not found in comfort, in possessions, or in control. It is found in communion. When you pray, truly pray, you align your spirit with the power of peace itself. Prayer is not just speaking to heaven, it is allowing heaven to breathe into you. It is the sacred exchange where anxiety bows before assurance and fear is silenced by faith. Many people search for peace in rest, yet they go to bed and still wake up weary. They seek peace in success, yet the more they gain, the more restless they become. The peace that prayer brings cannot be earned or achieved. It is received. It is a gift that descends when your heart opens and your will surrenders. The moment you begin to pray sincerely, your spirit begins to align with divine order. Chaos begins to lose its voice, and clarity starts to rise within. The external world may remain the same, but the internal world begins to shift. Prayer does not always change what is around you, but it always changes what is within you. When you kneel in prayer, you are not escaping your problems. You are repositioning your heart. The posture of prayer is the posture of humility, and humility is the doorway to peace. You stop striving, stop proving, stop running, and simply rest in the knowledge that you are held by something greater than yourself. The power of peace begins to flow through your being because you are no longer fighting against the rhythm of heaven. You are moving with it. Every heartbeat, every breath begins to synchronize with divine stillness. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of the one who calms them. The waves may rise, but in prayer you find the authority to remain unmoved. You realize that storms are temporary, but peace is eternal. Every time you pray, you align your emotions with eternity. You lift your eyes above the temporary and fix them on what cannot be shaken. That alignment gives strength to endure, patience to wait, and wisdom to act with calm assurance. In prayer, your thoughts begin to slow down. The endless noise of your mind, worries about tomorrow, regrets from yesterday, starts to fade. You enter into a rhythm of grace where your heart begins to understand what your mind cannot explain. The power of peace begins to govern your emotions. What once made you fearful now makes you faithful. What once made you anxious now becomes your opportunity to trust deeper. This alignment is not a one-time event. It is a daily returning, a nightly realignment, a continual communion with stillness itself. There are moments when life feels overwhelming, when the weight of responsibility presses heavily upon your shoulders. It is in those moments that prayer becomes your secret refuge. You may not have all the answers, but when you pray, you begin to feel that peace which surpasses understanding. It is not logical, it is spiritual. It is not taught, it is experienced. It seeps into the cracks of your soul and begins to rebuild what the storms have broken. You feel it in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the way your mind begins to quiet down. Prayer is the bridge that carries you from panic to peace. When you pray before sleep, you release the day's tension into divine hands. The worries that once screamed for your attention lose their power as you surrender them. You align yourself once again with the rhythm of rest. Not just physical rest, but spiritual rest. The peace that prayer brings is not fragile. It is unshakable. It does not depend on silence in the world, but silence within the heart. It teaches you to stand still even when everything around you is moving. It teaches you to trust the unseen even when the visible looks uncertain. The alignment that prayer brings is like tuning an instrument. A heart out of tune produces noise, but a heart aligned through prayer produces harmony. When your heart is tuned to the frequency of peace, your words carry grace, your thoughts carry calmness, and your steps carry confidence. You begin to move through life differently, not hurried, not fearful, but steady and serene. Prayer aligns your will with divine will, your thoughts with divine wisdom, your emotions with divine calm. And in that alignment, peace ceases to be an occasional visitor and becomes your constant companion. There is a kind of prayer that touches heaven more deeply than any eloquent word or long petition. It is the prayer that rises not from striving, but from surrender. It is the whisper that says, I release what I cannot control, and the sigh that breathes, thank you for what I still have. The prayer of surrender and gratitude is not the language of defeat. It is the expression of faith at its purest. It is the moment when the soul bows and says, even if I don't understand, I still trust. Even if I can't see, I still believe. Every day fills us with reasons to hold on tightly, to plans, to people, to outcomes we hope for. But every night reminds us that we are not the ones who keep the world spinning. Surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that the hands that hold the universe, are more capable than ours. When you pray a prayer of surrender before sleep, you are saying, I have done what I can today. Now I place the rest in divine hands. And that act of release becomes the very doorway to peace. What you surrender in prayer ceases to torment you in the night. What you yield is what heaven begins to heal. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is laying down the illusion of control so that you may receive the reality of grace. There are burdens you were never meant to carry into your sleep. There are battles that belong not to your hands, but to His. The prayer of surrender is not always made with loud words. Sometimes it is made in silence, with tears, with a quiet nod of the heart. It is saying, I am letting go, and meaning it. It is opening your hands so that they may be filled again with something new, something lighter, something blessed. And when surrender flows into gratitude, something powerful happens. Gratitude changes the atmosphere of the heart. It transforms what remains into enough. It turns pain into perspective and scarcity into sufficiency. Gratitude reminds you that, even on the hardest days, grace has not left you. There is still breath in your lungs, still warmth in your home, still love in your life. The prayer of gratitude is the song that rises when everything else grows silent. It is the voice that says, I may not have everything I want, but I thank you for everything I need. A gratitude does not ignore pain, it redeems it. It looks at the broken pieces and says, even here, there is goodness. It looks at the waiting seasons and says, even here, there is purpose. When gratitude and surrender meet, the heart becomes light. You stop measuring what went wrong and start recognizing what still stands. You stop complaining about what you lost and begin to celebrate what cannot be taken away. That is why prayer before sleep must always include surrender and gratitude, because both realign the soul. One releases, the other replenishes. One empties, the other fills. To pray this kind of prayer is to breathe differently. You exhale the day, its pressures and disappointments, and inhale peace, grace and strength for tomorrow. You thank the divine for what you have, and you release what you cannot change. You stop wrestling with what is unfinished and start resting in what is faithful. In that moment, peace begins to flood the heart. Worry loses its grip. Fear fades into quiet trust. You realize that the act of surrender is not about giving up control. It is about giving back control to the one who knows the way better than you ever could. When you whisper words of gratitude, your soul rises higher. Every thank you is a key that unlocks the gate to joy. Every moment of appreciation becomes a bridge between your humanity and His divinity. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is miraculous. You begin to see how even small things, kind words, unexpected mercies, quiet strength, are evidence of divine care. Gratitude teaches the heart to see beyond the storm and notice the sunlight breaking through the clouds. The prayer of surrender and gratitude is a rhythm, a heartbeat of faith. It says, I trust and I thank. It is the prayer that closes the door on anxiety and opens the window to peace. It is the quiet declaration that even when life feels uncertain, your spirit remains anchored. It is not loud, it is not complicated, but it is powerful. It is the prayer that builds altars in the night and lights candles in the darkness. It is the place where trust and thanksgiving become one voice, one breath, one sacred act. There is a secret place within every human soul, a space not built by hands, not made of stone or wood, but woven from the quiet fibers of faith and devotion. This is the inner altar, the sacred meeting ground between heaven and the heart. Every night, when the world fades into silence and the lights go dim, that inner altar waits for your offering. It is not a place you visit with your feet. It is a place you enter with your spirit. It is where you bring your thoughts, your emotions, your victories, your wounds, and you lay them all down before the presence that never sleeps. To build an inner altar every night is to make your heart a sanctuary. It is to transform ordinary moments before sleep into holy ground. You do not need candles, incense, or elaborate words. Only a sincere heart that desires communion. The altar you build within yourself is not made once. It is rebuilt every evening with prayer, reflection, and surrender. It is where you pause to remember who you are, who holds you, and what truly matters. All throughout the day, the world pulls you outward. Responsibilities scatter your focus, distractions divide your attention, and voices compete for your peace. But the night calls you inward. It invites you to return home, to the quiet, to the sacred, to the stillness where your soul can breathe again. When you close your eyes and begin to pray, you are not just ending your day, you are entering holy fellowship. Each word, each breath becomes a brick in that inner altar. Gratitude becomes its foundation, surrender its structure, and faith its flame. Building an inner altar means refusing to end the day in emptiness. It means taking the fragments of the day, the frustrations, the small triumphs, the unnoticed mercies, and offering them up. It is the act of saying, here, I give this back to you. refine it, redeem it, and make it new. At that altar, the heart is cleansed. You pour out the weight you carried so that your spirit can rest light. You place your worries there, not to forget them, but to release them into hands more capable than your own. Some people end their nights scrolling through endless noise, hoping to escape the unease within. But those who build an inner altar know that peace is not found in distraction. It is found in devotion. In the quiet of prayer, your inner life is restored. The altar becomes a furnace where your doubts are burned away and your hope is rekindled. It is a place of transformation. What entered as chaos leaves as calm. What entered as confusion leaves as clarity. What entered as fear leaves as faith. Every night that you build that altar, you strengthen your connection with eternity. The more consistently you visit it, the more sensitive your heart becomes to divine whispers. You begin to sense guidance in silence, assurance in uncertainty, and strength in surrender. The altar becomes a living rhythm within you. A reminder that no day is wasted, no struggle unseen, and no prayer unheard. An inner altar is not built out of perfection, but persistence. Some nights your words may flow like a river. Other nights they may feel dry and simple. But still you show up. Still you light the flame. Still you meet the divine in the quiet. And every time you do, something shifts. The heart grows softer, the mind clearer, the soul stronger. This nightly practice becomes a spiritual architecture, a structure invisible to the world, but unshakable within you. To build an inner altar every night is to end each day in remembrance. It is to make the sacred your final thought before sleep. It is to declare, even without words, that life is not random, that every breath is part of a greater rhythm, that every night carries holy significance. In that stillness, you realize that the altar is not only a place of offering, it is also a place of receiving. You offer your weariness and receive renewal. You offer your worries and receive wisdom. You offer your day and receive peace that flows quietly through your being, preparing you for the dawn to come.